You are now watching Love, Stories and Vibes by Loveandships.
Hello, guys. Welcome to the first edition of Love Stories and Vibes by Loveandships. And I have with me this amazing couple. Do you guys want to introduce yourselves?
Yeah, why not?
Yeah.
You can go ahead.
Okay. Thank you for having us. My name is Bemi Badmus, and my husband is Toye Badmus. Yeah.
You've done my introduction.
Okay.
My name is Toye Badmus.
Okay.
It's good to be here. Thank you.
Yeah, lovely having you here. And
Same here.
I'm just going to delve into it. When I see couples, the first thing that comes to my head to ask them is, how long have you guys been together? So, how long did you guys date for? And how long have you been married for?
Okay. You want to answer this because we women always know, but
Yes, it should answer. Let's see how it can.
we always know.
Let's
So let
see
me
how we
test
do.
him. Let me test him a
Wow.
little.
Anyway, we've known ourselves since 2012. That's how long we've known ourselves for.
Okay.
We met off of social media, by the way, on Twitter. Started talking off of social media and didn't meet physically until about 2016.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's the first time we
So
saw
4
physically.
years.
Yeah.
Yeah, but we had
Just-
been friends just talking on and off between then.
Yeah.
Then 2017 was when we actually started dating.
Dating. Mm-hmm.
And then we got married in 2018.
Yes.
So
Interesting.
I'd say we've known ourselves now for 11 years.
Yes.
So it's correct.
Yes, it's correct. It's correct. I'll give him
I
that.
passed the test.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool. So now we know where you met. You know how long you guys have been together. How's it been for you? I know, of clearly you guys have been friends.
Yeah.
So that's actually really good. So how's it been? How's marriage been? When I talk to couples, they talk about the first 2 years, basically how difficult it can be, even for people who have been friends. So how has it been?
It's been, well, being married to Toye has been great. Obviously, with every marriage, there's always one thing or the other, one issue or the other. But I would say overall, we've been married for almost 5 years now. And I would say we've had more really good days, really amazing days than, the little squabbles here and there that every married couple always has. So it's been great. It's been a learning curve for the both of us. We've grown a lot. We've learned a lot. And we are at a point where I think we're now getting back to the early days of dating and things like that. And it's quite interesting and we're liking it, we're loving it. And we can't wait to, I can't wait to see what more comes out of this marriage. Mm-hmm.
You're right the first time when you said we. Why did you change the way?
Well, I mean.
Anyway, yeah, I would say difficult. I would say different. Dating is a lot different to marriage. There's things that you learn and you begin to see and makes you wake up every day and decide to do it.
Yeah.
When you're dating, you can always say, "Oh, I'm going home," or "I'm not seeing you today." But in a marriage, you literally have to see yourselves every day. So it takes a lot of determination to make it work. And when love is already there, right, that makes it that bit easier. Now, it doesn't make it totally easy, right? But it makes it a bit easier because, you love this person and you're willing to put in the work to ensure that the relationship works. There's new things you will learn.
Yeah.
There's new things you will discover. And you have to be ready to live with those things because for many people, you find that those little things that come up become deal breakers. And it's not necessarily fundamental issues, right? It's things as little as, the way this person sleeps, or the way this person snores, or the way this person uses the bathroom. It's those little things that add up to form issues that marriages have. But when you make up your mind to decide that this has to work, and I cannot see myself doing life without this person, then those things are very easy to overcome and go forward.
Okay.
So, yeah.
That's interesting. And of course, like things like, I know this for sure. Waking up when the other person is
Oh my
sleeping and how the other
God.
person moves.
Yes.
Okay, so these things, did you discuss them before getting married, or you just waited to find out after getting married?
We actually discussed. I would think that we're one of the couples that actually discussed a lot of things while we were dating. Um, I would. I recall we probably had conversations around, oh, do you snore? Or do you, just, it was just for laughs. It
Random.
wasn't randomly.
Okay.
Or because you know, when you see like issues on social media or something, and you're like, oh, what do you think about this? Oh, how do you how do you feel
Yeah.
about this? Just to get the vibe of what your marriage might look like, or what living with that person might look like. So I know we discussed a lot of things extensively. We discussed like how many kids we wanted, what we wanted for our lives, like career goals. We even went in depth. Like, I'm talking about, do we, like, yes, we want this number of kids. Where do we want to give birth to them? Like, what schools do we want them to go? Do we have a vaginal delivery or a C-section? Like, we went that deep, to have those conversations. And even with our career, even with our, like, where do we live? What kind of house do we get? How long do we stay in a house? We actually went in depth and discussed those things. And like I said earlier, it wasn't like I just wake up one morning and say, oh yeah, let's talk about these things. It was, like, situations just arise, and you're just like, oh, by the way, what do you think about this? So yeah, I think we discussed a lot.
Yeah, we did discuss a lot. And to further buttress earlier points, right? You can discuss about so many things, but surely you can't discuss about everything. And even the things you've discussed about, aside the things that are absolute, for example, you say, oh, do you snore? And I say no. Or I say yes. You ask me, do you snore loudly? I say no. But loud to me is probably not loud to you, right? So there's a lot of those other functionalities in between that you can never be prepared for. So there's no, oh, we have all our bases covered. Nobody can ever have their bases covered. You will still see things that you need to adapt to or learn to adapt to. So yeah, we discussed extensively about everything. But yeah, there's still some surprises here and there.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to know, because I'm married, and then even some things that we discussed and we had certain views on. When people change. When
Right,
the more you get
yeah,
exposed to things, the more you see things, your views might change about things. And then probably you said, okay, you wanted to have 3 kids, and then maybe after the first delivery, I'm like,
I don't want to have any more. Right.
and then so
right.
you have to come to terms with things like that. So you guys discuss these things. Were there some things that changed for you after you got married? And then you realized, okay, we have to talk about this again. This wasn't our agreement.
Personally, I don't think we've gotten to that point where anything has changed, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
You can correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think so. Most of the major things that we've spoken about, timelines, activities.
You guys are on track.
Not necessarily on track, but not much of a change either.
Yeah.
That's requiring a fundamental come to Jesus moment and taste it down.
Oh, let's sit down and talk about it.
no.
No.
Okay, that's cool. Well done, guys. So you guys have a daughter.
Yes, we do.
Right, okay, so how has parenting? Parenting is a big deal, to be honest. I felt nobody prepared me for how things
Nothing
would
prepares
change.
you.
No, like nothing.
Nothing.
And then you're thrust into it. You can't go back, and
Right.
you have to just manage and have to change your entire life.
Right.
So how has it affected you guys? Doesn't have to be negatively, could be positively. Like, what has changed since having your child?
Wow. So should I just maybe let you answer this while I ruminate? Because I can't.
While you gather your thoughts, right?
Yeah, I think so.
For me, the change started from the day she was born, right? We had her through C-section, so my wife couldn't be immediately able to take care of her. So for the first 5, 6, 7 hours of her life, she was solely my responsibility. And in that moment, I realized that, look, your life is not the same anymore. There's this human being that cannot take care of herself that you have to take care of. And that realization was very scary. It was very motivating. It was everything at once, right? And the biggest decision I made in that moment was that I should never have to disappoint this person in any way. Whatever she becomes in future is totally dependent on a lot of my actions from now going forward. So the biggest change was it increased my level of responsibility like a million times. I mean, normally when it was just us, I could be out till whenever, even though I don't go out. But whenever I went out, I could be out till whenever and not worry because she's adult. If there's an issue, she'll pick up the phone and call me. But with the child in our lives now, every plan has to take her into consideration. So the first person you want to settle is her. And then everything else can work. And then it's taught me a whole lot of patience. People say when their babies is the hardest time. I don't think so.
No.
It's the point where they start to be able to form words and realize that they have the autonomy to make decisions. So when my child tells me I don't want to do this, I have to figure out a way to get her to do what I think is correct while making her feel like she's the one making that decision, because we have a very opinionated daughter who would not do what she wants to, or who would not do what she doesn't want to do.
Yeah.
Except you're able to convince her that, look, there's a reason for you to do this thing. So it's taught me diplomacy, it's taught me patience, a lot of it, because the kind of settings where I grew up in, when your father or mother said, this is it, that was law, right?
Yeah.
But now you're learning that that's not the best way to parent, to ensure that kids have their own autonomy and mind of their own. So it's taught me that I have to develop patience, I have to develop diplomacy, I have to broaden my horizons and realize that there's more than physical way of punishment, to think of other ways to induce versus punish, right? So yeah, that's what parenting has been like for me in the broad sense.
Okay.
So I think I've been able to gather my thoughts now. So I would say that having our daughter made me see my husband in a different light. He, like he said, like immediately she was born, the first, I want to say maybe 10 hours, I didn't even want to see her because she had put me through a lot. So I was just like, take this girl away. So he had to do like her first, skin to skin. He had to change her diaper. He followed her to the nursery, everything they had to do. He did like everything the mom does with the child, the first, he did everything with her. So, when I woke up and, they were telling me all of these things that he had done, I just saw him in a different light. Because I know he likes kids, but I never knew he was going to be that intentional, about it. And, saying that, oh, my wife still feels this way. I'm not even going to stress her. Even when I didn't start breastfeeding on time, like my milk wasn't flowing on time, he just swooped in and, collected the formula thing and started feeding her and things like that. So it made me see him in a different light. But then, across the years, I would say that we've had good times, like I said, with our daughter and things like that. But I think one thing I realized about our marriage was that it kind of made us just have a routine, So it was just like, okay, which wasn't like that before we had our daughter. It was just the both of us. So there was nothing like a routine. We could be spontaneous, things like that. But it was almost like, you wake up in the morning, you take care of our daughter, we both go to work, we come back, take care of our daughter. And it almost put a little dent in our relationship, right? So because we were just following that routine and we had totally forgotten about our own selves as a couple. And we had to now come back to that realization and be like, this child, one day she's going to leave this house. And it's just going to be the both of us at the end of the day. So I'm glad we were able to realize that on time. And then now come back to like things we used to do before we even had her. So she has her own life to live and we also have our own lives to live. And I would say that this probably happens more often in marriages, that when the kid comes, people say, oh, the kids will bring you closer. The kids can also not tear you out. Not like there's anything wrong with the marriage or anything, but then you just get into this comfortable routine of just doing things the same old way. And if care is not taken, you just realize that you and your spouse have like drifted apart. And I'm glad we were able to realize that on time. Like, my husband was like, babe, this is not how we used to do things before. You know, you can't. And he also understands because I'm tired. Like, at the end of the day, I'm taking care of this girl all day. I'm tired. But then we had to take conscious effort to, you know, prioritize ourselves as a couple rather than as parents. You get,
Yeah, that's actually very important to be intentional, because you just, the whole routine of taking care of the child, the child comes first, and then you forget that you guys were lovers in the first place. So that's good. So my next question is for Toye. We talk about in Nigeria, Africa, right? So there are certain expectations of a man. Like, okay, this is how it should be. Do you feel that pressure of, having to provide, having to be the strong one, do you sometimes feel that pressure?
I'll be lying if I said I didn't. Every man, whether African or not, is hardwired in some way to be the provider in the home. But I've been very lucky in the fact that I've had a wife who, without asking or without prompting, is willing to share the load. Because there are times when I cannot do it by myself. And I don't think there's one person that can really do it by themselves, right? And she just knows. So I don't have to ask and say, help me. She's already doing some things that automatically alleviates the pressure on me. There was some time in the last couple of years when it was really, really bad and I was really struggling. And I was doing the little I could do in terms of some really key things, right? But I wasn't doing what I thought that I should be doing. And in those times, I felt really bad. And being a man now, it's very difficult to talk about these things. I didn't exactly express those worries to my wife. She could see it and she would ask me and I'd say, everything is fine, everything is okay, because I didn't want to transfer that pressure, that responsibility onto her. But she was helping in her own way, and by God's grace, things are balancing out a lot better, and I'm able to do all of it, or most of the things that I think I should be doing, because she still helps out, right? So yes, I feel that pressure, and I've been lucky to have someone who's willing to take off some of that pressure off me. So yeah.
Well done. Okay, so this is for you.
Okay.
There was a time on Twitter, this trended like a while back, where people were complaining. I think a lady died, and some people were saying that it was because prior to her death, she tweeted something about having to do a lot of housework, right? And then when she died, of course, people said that she died because she was because she was doing a lot of things. And the truth is, I struggled when I first got married. I was not used to doing a lot of things, right? Well, I could do those things, but I didn't have to do them. Like, I could do them at my own pace. I didn't have to cook for anybody.
Yeah.
So it was just, I struggled a bit. So how was it for you? Was it, do you have any?
Okay, so when it comes to like domestic chores, right? I struggled. So in fact, I'm still struggling. I'm not even gonna lie, I'm still struggling. But I think one thing that has worked or that has helped me and my family is, I think my husband knows like my strengths and weaknesses. So there are some things he doesn't. If I don't do it, he's not going to be mad, because he just knows that baby, she cannot do it. So there's no point. Take for example ironing. I would not iron anybody's clothes, not even my daughter, because I don't like ironing. So he irons for us in the house. The cooking aspect, things like cooking it's not like I don't like cooking. I cook, but in conducive environments. So
I feel you.
Yeah, like I mean, I can't be sweating.
Conducive environment and emotions.
And emotions, right?
Cook,
when
right?
I want to cook, so I can't be. But then I'm also, like he said when he was talking the other time about luck, I'm also lucky. I'm married to somebody that he doesn't. It's not the typical traditional man that wants like the whole spread, the whole I want a tray
Pounded
and
yam
like I
and
want 4
egusi.
plates. Like
Yeah.
if you leave my husband with a pot of stew and bread, he's good. Like he's good. He won't even call you to say, where are you or anything. Like he can be there for like 3 days and he will not even disturb you. Just make sure that there's bread at home and there's stew. There's a pot of stew that has plenty meat inside. he's good to go, you know. So with things like cooking, he doesn't eat a lot, so he doesn't really stress me out with things like that. But then I know that I still have a responsibility, and I know that my daughter, of course, she's not like my husband. I'll just eat bread and stew now, so she still has to eat. So what I do is that what's that word? What's the word?
Delegate.
Delegate, yes. I delegate. There were times that I used to buy bowls of soup. You know, there were times I used to buy bowls of soup. Then I eventually got somebody that like cooks and things like that. Because I'm also somebody that I wake up very early in the morning and go to work, and I don't come back till, you know, quite late in the evening. So I don't really have that time in terms of taking care. So there were times, there was a time when we had our daughter, we didn't have a help, we didn't have a nanny, nothing, nobody was helping us. We took up our responsibilities by ourselves. Like I had to get out of the funk of I don't cook or things like that. I had to, you know, step in when I needed to. Clean our house. I think we would like, you take like sitting room, I'll take like room, we'll clean it, we'll take care of our daughter, we'll take turns. Maybe he would bath her or I'll bath her, and then he'll like wear her clothes for her. Like we basically shared it like that, you know, till we were able to get somebody that we could that could help us out, you know. And we have very strong support system. My parents they don't live too far away, so they help a lot. Our siblings, you know, they help. So we have good support system. But I would say anybody you're feeling overwhelmed, if you can, please just delegate such responsibilities and don't kill yourself. There's no award for overall best in being a wife or being a domestic chore person. That's it.
Yeah, that's actually very important, especially when you're working. Even when you're not working.
Even when you're not working.
Like you just if you can afford it, just delegate.
Because a lot of these things, especially like chores, I always tell you that the mental load of it alone is quite exhausting. I was telling him that which day, I think a couple of days ago, I was like, just thinking, you know, for example, I said, okay, I delegate, you know, maybe I have somebody cook for us, right? But then when she comes and says, what do I cook? That it's just thinking about it, and you start permutating. What did we ate this yesterday morning? We ate this yesterday afternoon. We ate this today morning. So what do we eat this evening? It's like I would pay somebody to actually do that thinking.
And a lot of people don't get it.
No. It's you know, thinking about, oh, I have clothes in the washing machine, I have to spread it. At the same time, I have to remember to change my daughter's clothes in the wardrobe. Something. It's just mentally thinking about it while I'm at work. It's actually quite exhausting.
It's a lot.
Yeah.
When I first got married, because of course I grew up in a typical African home, and then growing up, all I heard was, "Oh, you're lazy. When you get to your husband's house, what will you do?"
Right.
So when I got married, I felt nobody put the pressure on me. I put it on myself. I felt like, okay, to be a good wife,
you need to do all these things.
I need to do all these things. So I would wake up in the morning and start sweeping, mopping. It was exhausting. I had to be like, okay, you know what? No, just calm down. And then I had to delegate, because yes, to be the best version of yourself, you can't always be exhausted. It doesn't work.
Yeah.
It doesn't work that way. So I still have the best advice that I was given before I got married. In fact, it was a day before I got married. Like, I would always remember that advice, because it was, okay, nobody had not heard it from anybody before. So let me just quickly share.
Yeah.
So it was for my boss. So he just called, and my husband, I'm like, okay, you guys sit down. And when you guys get married, or when, of course, you guys are getting married, in your marriage, don't let any external factors, or say your parents, your sisters, your friends, don't let them be the cause of your fights. You don't fight about, those people are not important. The most important thing, if you guys are going to fight about your relationship, fight about things happening in your home. Because if you keep letting other people like, oh, this person did this, your brother did this, your mom did this, you shouldn't talk about those things reasonably and just let them go. And if you guys cannot come into a conclusion, just Just let it go.
Yeah.
Don't let. So I've always held on to that. So what would be the best advice you've gotten?
Advice.
Or you've
advice.
seen, or just something that stuck with you that you probably apply to your marriage?
For me, yeah, the advice you mentioned is one of the key advices that I also got, but framed in some other way. The framing is that it's you and your spouse against the world.
Mm-hmm.
So, in every situation, whether you're going to discuss or not, whether you're going to now go back into your bedroom and fight yourselves, but in that moment where you have to take a stand, always take the stand behind your spouse. Because the moment anyone sees that division can happen, it's very easy for them to say things to your spouse to make you behave some type of way against them. So in the glare of the public, in the public eye, let them realize that you cannot come between these people. And some people are not even doing it intentionally, right?
Right.
In the early days of our marriage, now my wife is, as much as she can talk on social media and be very, outgoing, she's also very quiet and very shy and very picky in terms of relationships. So a couple members of my family felt like, oh, she's just my husband and I. She didn't send anybody. And they were trying to make issues out of it. And I said to them, look, if you're going to say anything about my wife, say it to me. I don't want to ever hear that you call her and say anything to her. This is including my mom, by the way. Say, if you're going to say anything to her, call me. If you cannot call her and say, well, I just want to greet you, then anything beyond that, say it to me. So that way, everybody knew to stay off those topics. So even when we visit, there's this respect around it because they know that if you say anything to her, I'm going to take it up. And I'm also not a very talkative person. So for me to say something to you, you know that it's a serious situation. So everybody stayed off. So you want to build that wall. Not necessarily an antagonistic wall, but just a wall to look.
To protect.
This is our preserve. Yeah. So don't go beyond that. So that's one very key advice. And it's worked a lot. Because subsequently, herself and my mom and my dad are probably more friendly than I am with them.
Yeah.
But they don't say anything disparaging. Doesn't come out of it. There's no disrespect in that relationship. So that's one key thing
that's really good.
that I learned.
Like that's really good. How about you, Bemi?
I think the best advice that I got, it was something along the lines of just having open communication. And the funniest thing is that I would say maybe in the first year or second year, first 2 years of our marriage, I didn't even take that advice seriously. I was one that used to. I was one that used to. I used to keep things inside of me, right? And I wouldn't express them like, now. Let's deal with the situation now. I'll just keep it. I'll just bottle it. And then the day something like arises, I just blow up, and I just start listing all the other things that he had done, getting to that point. And I think in the first year, leading up to almost second year of marriage, we had like a big outburst. Because I had all this, like I had a cooler. And that day I opened that cooler and it was full. But then I realized that it was, later, not at that time, later I realized how unhealthy that was for us. And then I think I now started working on having more open communication because he's not a talkative. I talk more than he does, but then he expresses himself more than I do. You know, he'd rather, let's talk about it, but I'd rather just, no worries, it's fine. Let's just, but I think that's one of the best advice I got. And like I said, I just thought the person was just talking normal yarns. But then I'm now realizing that it was actually one of the best advice that I got because now I'm more open to communication and we are much better, than we were.
Communication is actually one of a lot of people say communicate. So
Yeah.
when it doesn't seem like valuable advice anymore, when people, because it's so common,
because
to say,
everybody says
communicate,
it, yeah.
but it is like
It's
one of
actually
the like it is
sounds
very
cliche,
important. Yeah,
but it's like it actually is the main would I say the bedrock of your relationship.
Every relationship.
Of every relationship. Like you cannot not communicate. Yesterday on Instagram, I was doing this ask me questions thing, and then somebody had asked a question and said, how do I, like, she's in a relationship but she's not sure the guy wants to marry her, that how I should tell her how to find out that the guy wants to marry her. And I said, have you tried asking him? Like, have you asked him? Like, so you're waiting for somebody to give you this mathematical Pythagoras theorem to solve it and decipher that this guy wants to marry you. Meanwhile, all you have to do is just ask.
And there's a difference between talking and communicating. Right?
Yes.
So a lot of people talk, and I've heard you. It's okay. But have you communicated? I don't think so, because you think you have, but you find that in the long run, the same thing is repeating itself because you've not really communicated to understand what the expectation from that communication is. So communication is, this is what I think. This is the outcome I expect to get from it. So if you communicate what you think alone and you don't clearly clarify what the outcome should be,
right,
the outcome could be 1,001 things in this person's mind. Meanwhile, what you want is just this one thing. And the person is doing all the things that they think is good, but it's really not working for you because they don't know that one thing it is that you're expecting from that situation. So clarity in communication is also very key.
Very important.
Like, adding to that clarity part, there's also this thing where I'm talking to Toye, but Toye is hearing another thing.
There's that.
There's also that. Comprehension of, like, if you, like in school, the teachers will say, do you understand? If you do not understand, let me know. So if you're talking to somebody and you're not understanding what that person is saying, or you think you're hearing something different, clarify. Are you saying this? Is this what I'm queen of, is this what you mean? And I always tell him, I'm like, maybe he just, cracks a joke as, is this what you, I'm like, no, like it was just, he'd be like, no, it was just an honest, it was just an innocent thing. I'm like, no. Is this what you mean? Wow, this is what you think. And then he has to now clarify and say no. And most times I wouldn't even lie. I know what he means, but I just want to pull his legs and just give him a tough time. But then there are some people that actually genuinely don't know and they just run with it like that. And it's very, very unhealthy.
So people have insecurities and
Right.
even traumas, right? And then they carry those things around without resolving them. So when someone says something innocent, but because of your own past things that you've experienced, it comes into play and then you tend to misinterpret.
Reminds me of, it must have been the first day of the marriage or second day. And I said, no, you can't get mad and say you want to take Uber and go home, right?
Oh, yeah.
And it was such, I said it jokingly,
and
it was such a big deal.
I was mad because I was like, what do you mean? So what do you mean?
I'm stuck or what?
And then I told him that, who told you I still can't take Uber and go home? What do you mean?
So it's little things like that, right? You just need to understand what you're communicating.
So maybe she was already thinking, okay, maybe she had that realization already.
Like,
of course.
exactly.
You brought it up
and then you now
just
blotted it out because in my head I'm already thinking, Momoh. I don't know. As in,
like that's realization that okay, we are, this is it.
Like
like,
this
it can be scary.
I can't just go to my parents' house again and say I'm coming to sleep over. Like
I know, right? It's been so much fun, guys, and thank you so much for sharing with us. So on a final note, I think that would be your advice because it's your best advice. So I'm sure that is what you would want to pass on to others. But what are you looking forward to? Say 10, 20 years from now in your marriage, what are you looking forward to doing? Just
20 years from now, she will be in college, Joe.
Yeah.
Momoh.
Should have finished college even.
Should have even finished college, chef, Wow.
to just you guys.
We don't have no student debt. We don't have those student loans.
That would have been the
We're
best way.
balling. please don't mind me.
No, of course. That's a valid 20-year goal to look at. I want to look back 20 years, God keeping us, to say I have fulfilled all of the responsibilities I should have, both as a father and as a husband. I want to look back and say that I've done the best for my family, because love is not enough, right? You need to be able to have delivered your responsibility. So I want to look back in 20 years and say, I'm worthy of the name father and husband, really. That's my dream for 20 years.
Yeah, that's good.
In 20 years, see, me, I want to be taking vacations with my husband. That's just my own.
Me and my husband.
As in, me and my husband. These children be out of the house. We have one. Hopefully, by God's grace, we have another one. So by that time, those two children are out of the house and they are calling to say...
The child can be out of the house in 20 years.
Okay. Well, they could be in college.
Well,
think about it.
The second child.
Yes.
She definitely would have finished college.
Second child could be in college. And, they'd be asking, Mommy and Daddy, where are you? I'm like, we're in Bora Bora. or we're in, I don't know.
the new destination.
The new raving destination. See, I just want this soft life when I'm at that age. And that's why I'm working hard now, so that, by then, just because people do it now, like people retire at, I've seen people retire at 45, seen people retire in their 40s, and they're just taking a tour, taking a trip around the world and, doing good.
Thank you so much, guys. It's been fun.
It's been really
and
fun. Thank
enlightening.
you.
I took a lot of things.
Oh, wow.
Yes, I took a lot of things, especially the protects your spouse against the world. Yes, very, very good advice, solid advice. So thank you, guys.
Thank you so much for having
so much
us.
for the
We're
time.
so grateful.